Bloom by Deborah Diesen. Pictures by Mary Lundquist. Do you remember when we planted those flower bulbs together? One of us dug the holes while the other laughed at the bulb's funny shape and crinkly skins. Together, we dropped the bulbs one by one into their growing spots. We held clumps of dirt in our palms and mashed them up just to feel the rhythm of the bumpy soil in our hands. We covered the holes with dirt. We spread the dirt evenly. The wind made the tree leaves dance, and one of us chased a beautiful orange leaf all across the yard. The other one watched and then joined in too, running through the rays of warm sunshine. When we looked at the garden we'd planted and thought about those bulbs, both of us secretly wondered how something so small could ever possibly grow big and tall, could ever possibly bloom. In all the time that's passed since then, the doors we've walked through, the celebrations, the big trip we took, and even the time that we cried. So much has happened that I'd almost forgotten about the garden we planted. But the bulbs did not forget. Their roots pushed deep, their stems grew strong. They heard the call of the sun. They decided how to answer. They grew steadily, surely, day by day, each day a little bigger, stronger, as certain as love. And now, from those tiny little bulbs, the ones that we planted together so long ago, just look at what has grown. Today's Storytime craft is going to be a paper iris. April showers bring May flowers. So here's a quick and easy craft you can make with just a few supplies, like these. For this craft, you will need one thing that is a little unusual, which is a green plastic smoothie straw. You can usually pick them up pretty inexpensively at discount stores, and they have lots of uses, including drinking smoothies and crafts. If you don't have plastic smoothie straws, you could use cardboard and adapt the design. You could even use tightly rolled cardstock taped into a little tube shape. The smoothie straw is for the flower stem. So just make sure whatever material you use is sturdy enough to hold the petals and the tape. Okay, you'll also need colored paper to make the flower petals or blooms. Construction paper will work fine. I used colored cardstock for my example. You can also use scrapbook paper. Just know that often scrapbook paper has color on one side and is blank or white on the other side, and both sides of the paper will show in this craft. So be aware, if you use scrapbook paper, it's best to use double-sided paper or let the blank side show if that's how you want it. You'll also need green paper for the flower's leaves, and the same applies. I think it looks best if the paper you use has color on both sides, but you decide and use whatever you have. You'll need tape. I used regular tape that isn't transparent, so you can see what I'm doing a little better with it on the instructions here. But clear packing tape cut into strips or transparent tape will work great, especially the packing tape, which is extra strong. You will need scissors, a ruler, and something to draw with. So let's get started. For the blooms, I used a ruler to make marks across my red paper about a 1/2 inch apart. Then, using the ruler as a guide, I drew lines up the paper all the way across like this. Then I cut them all out. You may not need this many strips, but I knew I was going to be making at least 2 of the irises, so that's why I cut the whole piece into strips. Next, you need to curl the colored strips. So just take your smoothie straw, start at one end of a strip, and roll it up tight around the straw. When you're done, your strips of paper will look like this. So now we're going to make the top bloom of the iris. Take 2 of the curled strips that you made. More than likely, one end of your strips will be more tightly curled than the other end because of how they got rolled up. So just use the less curled ends of your strips. Or if you got them tightly curled really well, smooth out one end of each strip. Hold the ends together, and I like to think of it as holding them back to back so that the curled parts bend out and away like that. Then you will use a small piece of tape to tape the ends together like this. Once you have the 2 strips taped together, you'll fold the tape part in half more or less, and it doesn't have to be exact, and you'll see why. And it doesn't have to be exact because all you're going to do is fold the taped part enough so you can fit the end into the top of the smoothie straw like this. Use another piece of tape to tape around the outside of the straw and the red strips to secure the strips to the straw. And there's the top part of your iris. To make the next bloom, just move down the straw a little bit, and how far you go down is really up to you. Take another of your colored strips and fold the less curly or the straighter end in half. And you're going to make the fold maybe 1 inch to 1.5 inches long. So it's probably easier to see here. So you're just going to fold that straighter end around the straw like so, with the bloom or the curled part of the strip bending out and away from the straw. You may have to bend the colored strip back a little bit to get it to look like you want. Then use another piece of tape to tape the curl to the straw. Go all the way around with the tape. If it is transparent tape, you really won't be able to see it that much. Then repeat the process with another strip on the opposite side of the straw or the stem and tape on the next strip. Keep taping on strips or blooms around the stem until you're happy with the way your flower looks. You can move the strips up or down the stem and tape them where you think it looks the best. Okay, now let's draw some leaves for your iris. Iris leaves are long and narrow and pointy at the end. So start at the bottom of your green paper with 2 little half circle shapes, kind of like a sloping backward C and then a C. They're about 4 inches apart, maybe a little less. Got that part? Okay, let's move on. Go up your paper about 3 or 4 inches and just make a rounded V shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to go between the 2 C shapes like so, like you're going to make a tree branch. Then start on one side of the backward C and draw a wavy line up and then off the page. Then you'll start on one side of the V that you drew, draw a wavy line up and off the page. I promise this is really so easy. Do the same on the other side of your green paper, just wavy lines up and out. And there are your iris leaves. Then all you do is cut them out. You can also add a line down the center of each leaf like so, just to add a little detail. Then you pretty much add the leaves the same way you added the blooms. Fold a portion of the bottom of the leaves in half, and you can trim it if you need to, and wrap the bottom part of the leaves around the smoothie straw, letting the top part of the leaves bend out and away from the stem. Tape the leaves farther on down the stem, but leave a little bit of room at the bottom of the straw in case you want to stick the iris into styrofoam or something like that. And there is your paper and smoothie straw iris. And once you're done, there's lots of things you can do with your iris. You can pin them to a bulletin board. You can poke them down into loose soil or styrofoam in a flower pot. You can use them as a party decoration or a party favor. Just use your imagination and make lots of irises. I hope that you'll leave some pictures of your irises in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed our story time and craft today from Shreve Memorial Library. Have a great day.